session is a full implementation demo. Every Friday we try to build an application from scratch. I usually take requests from customers, and if I don't get any requests, I'll come up with an idea myself. And for today's session, I came up with an application. We're going to build a job posting application. And as always, what I like to do first is give you a demo of what we're going to build today prior to jumping into Caspio and showing you how it's built. We're also going to have today's session recorded. We now have them available and we post them on our knowledge base. So if you end up going to howto.caspio.com, you're going to be able to find all the pre-recorded training sessions. So this is Monday to Thursday. And down below we have all of our Friday sessions that we're going to be posting on our knowledge base as well. So this video will also be available at the end of the day, and you're going to be able to see it down below. If you are joining us for the first time and you haven't used Caspio in the past, I do recommend that you attend our Monday to Thursday session first, because Fridays could get a little bit more overwhelming, because on our Friday session we put it all together, whatever we learned in Monday to Thursday. Yeah, again, you're welcome to stay and watch the video and attend the training session. Hopefully it's not going to be too overwhelming. And I'm not going to be muting the line for this training session because we always have a lot of ground to cover. And we only have 1 hour to build the application, but like I said, every single session will be available online, and then you can watch in your own pace after the training session is over. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. And before I start, I'd just like to always pause here and see if there's any questions before we begin. I'm going to unmute the line. You can also submit your question in the chat window. All right, let's go ahead and begin. So let me first show you what we're going to create today. It's a job posting application. And I found this template online. It's a free template that I downloaded. And you may have seen on a lot of company websites there's a careers link. And when you click on that link, it opens up all of the jobs that are available that company is hiring for. And then what you can do is you can click on that specific job that you want to apply for. You can see the details of that job, and then you can click on the apply link, which takes you to a submission form where you can submit your resume, your cover letter. You click submit, and upon submission, that recruiting manager is able to log into his or her account. And as you can see, I'm using two different templates. I'm using this template for my internal purposes, and this is our corporate website, which I just found a regular theme online and I modified it. So here as a recruiting manager, I can add a new job. So if we are hiring for somebody for a new position, I can fill this out. So let's just say sales admin, San Jose, California, salary can be $55K, job about sales admin, and we'll just put some random text here. And then now you have the ability to either publish the job or publish it later depending on when that job is open. So let's go ahead and publish this and click submit. Now you can see on your corporate website, if you refresh, you will see that new position is now available and open. As a recruiting manager, I can also manage jobs. So with this report, I can see all the jobs that are listed on the corporate website. I can also go to edit, details, and here I can unpublish. So if I uncheck this and click update, next time you refresh, you'll see that that job is no longer posted. And at the same time, you can see my report that it's unpublished now. But it's still in my queue, but I haven't published it yet. And you can also delete if you'd like. And in the details view, you can also edit the information about that specific job. Last but not least, we can manage candidates. So whoever submits an application, let's say for office manager or office administrator, and I apply, and let's just say Bob Jones, and this is a required field. Let me see if I have something I can attach here. Hopefully I have just an image or something I can use. Let's take a look. So we'll just use this notepad here. And cover letter, salary expectation, negotiable, and consider me for other job positions. Click submit. And now as the recruiting manager, I can go to manage candidates, and I can search, and now I can see that Bob Jones applied for this office admin position. I can go to details, and from the details view I can download the resume, I can look at the cover letters, and of course I can leave some internal notes for myself and where we are as far as progress with this applicant. So I can say, schedule for interview, notes will be coming in tomorrow, and follow-up date can be, let's say, Tuesday of next week. Click update, and now I can see those notes. Next time I log in to manage my candidates, I can see those specific notes that I left for myself. I can search based on status, and I can search based on applicants. If I search for Bob, I'm able to see just that information pertaining to Bob. Okay, so it's a simple application because we only have so much time in Friday sessions. Of course, you can make this much more robust. You can have multi-level users, you can have different recruiting managers, you can have a recruiting manager for each department. So for example, if somebody applies, let's say for a marketing manager position, and I click on apply and submit, this information will go to the marketing manager recruiter that the other recruiters won't be able to see. So you can set those privileges too as well in the application, but this is a very simple basic one that you can expand upon. So let's go inside Caspio and let's see how this application was built. Over here I have my sample template where I'm going to be deploying our data pages, so you can see how that was done as well. And let's go into our account and let's build a new application, and we're going to build this application from scratch. And let's call it job posting system. And let's go inside the application. And of course, as always, you want to start in your tables, because any application that you build in Caspio has to begin on the table level, because you need to have a place where you're storing data. And the first table that I'm going to build is my user table for my recruiters. And what I need is a user ID, name of the recruiter. We'll use email for them to log in with. This needs to be unique. Password field, this password. And those are all the fields that I need for the user table. Now if you have different levels of users, like we talked about in the prior sessions, you would use a checkbox to identify each user level, who has access to what data. And if you're not familiar with what I'm doing here, again, I cannot pause in today's session, but if you attend Monday through Thursday, you're going to learn what each one of these stands for, why we choose password and auto number for user ID. So do attend those sessions first prior to coming in today's session. So I'm going to click on save, and let's call this users or recruiters. Then I want to have a status table for, if you look at our live example, I'd like to create a status lookup table for any one of these options. So I'm going to do that really quickly. Let's create a status table. Field is going to be called status. And I'm going to open up my table, and really quickly we're just going to list a few here. We'll say new, schedule for interview, interviewed, hired, and saved for later. Okay, just 5 options there. Let's go back to our tables. And this is going to be my quick lookup table for that, since I'm going to be using that drop down quite a bit inside our application. Then I need a table for recruiters to post jobs. So this is, in a way, it's going to be your master table where all the jobs are going to be listed. So what we need is a job ID, and each job needs to have a specific ID associated with it. So we need an auto number, job title, job location, and you can call these fields whatever you want, salary, about the job, responsibilities, qualifications, and let's see, we'll do, and I also want to have a publish checkbox. So this is going to filter what's going to be available publicly versus, well, not versus, but what's going to be available publicly versus not being able to show it in the public corporate website. So you need to have that filter checkbox that's going to enable you to either show that job or show it later, and we're going to do that using a checkbox. And you can also have a job posting date, other fields if you'd like, but I think I'm good enough for now. I'm going to just keep these fields here, and what we're going to do is click on Save It, and let's call it Jobs T for Table. So that's the jobs table. And I'm going to stop for now, but we are going to need one more table, which is going to be for our applicants or candidates. But I will show you later, we're going to add that table once I add a few jobs, so I can show you how to pass those parameters from the jobs table over to the candidate table. We're going to be passing the job ID. Okay, because I don't have many user levels, I only have one. I'm not going to build any views. I'm going to go directly to authentications. Click on New Authentication. And all I'm going to do here is select my users table. We're going to use custom. And then for email, that's going to be email. And then we have the password field. Going to click on create. And let's call it users A for authentication. Okay, so again, if this is not making any sense right now, why we need to build the authentication, please attend Monday to Thursday first so you can learn how to use it and what it means in terms of password protecting your application. Okay, so now that I have my authentication set up, I can go directly to my data pages, and I know that my application is going to have, or is going to need, two folders. One folder for all my public-facing data pages, and one folder for my recruiters, or users, in this case. Okay, so what are public-facing data pages? If you look at our corporate website, this is not password protected, so this is public-facing. If I go to my careers data page, this is a public-facing data page because it doesn't require any kind of authentication for users to log in. Same thing for the details view, and then same thing for the submission form. So as you can see, I'm going to need 3 public-facing data pages in my app. And for the users, which is the internal interface, this is for the recruiters to be able to log in, and this is going to be password protected so you can manage all the applicants, manage jobs, and of course you don't want anybody to be able to see that, so you want it password protected. And this is why we created that authentication, so we can later on apply the authentication to our user data pages. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to build, which makes sense, is for the recruiters or users to be able to add jobs. And that's the data page, this one here, to be able to add a new job to the pool of all the other jobs. Okay, so let's go back to data pages. Let's click on New. And for that, I'm going to need a submission form. Let's click Next. Let's select our jobs table because that's where all the fields are. And let's call this Add New Job Form. We're going to apply these. We're going to enable both of these checkboxes. You don't need to for this specific data page, but it's always good practice to enable them just in case. That way later on you don't have to click back if you forgot to enable these 2 checkboxes. We're going to restrict access based on our authentication that we just created. So this is where you're going to apply the login screen to your data page using this setup here. I need all my fields in the form, so we're going to move them all to the right. And job title, let's make that required. Job location, salary, about the job. These ones here, I can actually make this text areas, so it's a little bit easier to see what we're typing. And then publish or not publish, so this can be a checkbox. And let me rename my label to status, and for display text, which is going to appear after the checkbox, we're going to say check to publish right away. Something like that. Click Finish. And here's our first data page. I'm going to click on Preview to see what it looks like. And as you can see, we have the login screen now because we created that authentication. And I don't have any users inside my table yet. So let's go to Tables, go to the Users table. Now let's add a user here really quickly. So we'll say Mike Smith, Mike@test.com, and password is going to be test. Okay, and then you can add additional recruiters or users to your table whoever needs to have access to managing candidates or managing jobs. Okay, so now let's try this one more time. We're going to click on preview, and we're going to log in as Mike at test.com. And there's our form. So now we can submit our first job to our table, to our jobs table. And if you are happy with the look and feel, just go ahead and click on the deploy link, enable access to this data page, copy this code, and what you're going to do is paste that code into your HTML, your CMS system, wherever you have your management system to manage all of your web pages. Personally, I work inside HTML directly. These are all my web pages that I'll need for my application. And the first one is to add new job. Here's my placeholder. All I'm going to do is paste my code right there in that part of the website. I'm going to save my script. And once you publish your web page and refresh, you're going to be able to see that form seamlessly embed into your website. Okay, notice that my other web pages are not set up yet. The only one that I've set up so far is this one here. So let's go ahead and make one submission here. Let's say support engineer. We'll say Santa Clara, California. Salary can be $85,000. About the job, random text, and random text. And let's go ahead and publish this right away. Click submit. Okay, so if you look at your table now, for your jobs table in your database, and you click on open, you're going to be able to see that job added to your jobs table. Okay, so from the web into your Caspio database, this is how you add records to your table. Okay, so for me, when I'm building my applications, what I would think the next step or the next application or next part of this application to build is, now that I can add jobs as a recruiter, I want to be able to manage jobs as well. So that's really easy to set up. We're going to click on new data page. And this time what I want to do is build a report. I'm going to go into tabular format that allows me to see all the jobs. If you look at the live example, here's my add new job form. So this is what I want to create next. Ability to see all the jobs that I'm adding to the table. I can see which ones are published, unpublished, and I can go to details and edit those jobs that are already posted. Okay, so let's go and create this report now, tabular format. I'm going to select my jobs table because that's where all the job information resides, and we're going to say view jobs report. Always enable these two checkboxes even if you don't need to. It's just good practice to do so. And we need to restrict access based on the user authentication. I'm not going to create a search form just to save time. We're going to just filter our results. Okay? And you do not need to set up any kind of record level security because we only have one level of user, which is the recruiters. I'm not going to filter based on anything. I'm going to skip this step. And now on the results page, what I want to show is, let's see, job title, location, salary. And because this usually has a lot of text, these three fields, I don't want to display that on the results page because it's going to skew the results. It's not going to look clean. All I want to show is the publisher, the status of that job. And then in the details page, I will show the rest of this information. Alright, so we have the job title, location, salary, and then for the publish field, if you can look at my live example, I took a step further. I made it a nice published versus unpublished label. Okay, so what we can do is, instead of yes and no, which is very plain and boring, we can edit this, customize it. So for yes, display, we'll say published if it's checked, and if it's not checked, we'll say unpublished. And I'll just give it a color. If it's a yes, I want that to be green. If it's a no, I want that to be red. That way you can identify, when you look at the report, just some color schema on what's published versus not published. And then you click OK. And then you can see the formatting has changed now. Instead of yes and no, you have your own text. Let's list 25. Let's also have the ability to delete jobs if you want to. Let's enable the details page. And in the details page, I'll show everything. And other than the job ID, which we know it's an auto number, so we can't really change that. That's always going to be display only. Job title we can change, so we can make that a text field. Location we should be able to edit as a recruiter. Salary. These three will make it a text area. And last but not least, we have the publish checkbox, so we'll make that a checkbox, and we'll say label status, and we'll say check to publish right away. And click finish. So here's our second data page. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this now to my live example here. So let's go to my web pages, and that's actually called managejobs.html. That's my web page. So we're going to go ahead and paste that code right over here, save my script, refresh my page, and now when you go to manage jobs, let me refresh. Here's that one job that we added. You can see that it's published, and then we can go to details and we can edit the details of that job. If I quickly just add one more job, we'll say marketing, San Jose, California, salary, something, and let's go ahead and not publish it and click submit. Once you go to manage jobs, now you're going to be able to see that job is not published yet, which means it's not going to be available publicly yet. Okay, so again, if we go back to our live example, you'll see that what you're doing is basically limiting to what you can see on this report. Okay, so now that we have these two data pages added for the users, now we can start working on the public-facing aspect of the application. So what I'm going to build first is the ability to filter those jobs if it's published or not published. And this is going to be our first public-facing data page. So what I'm going to do is click on New Data Page Type. We're going to go with the report layout, tabular format. And again, that needs to be based on the jobs table, because that's where all the job information is going to be. We're going to call this View Available Jobs Report. I'm going to enable both of these. And now you do not need to restrict access because you're not password protecting based on that authentication. You're making this a public-facing data page. I also don't want to search, I just want to filter my results. And we're going to go ahead and enable both of these. It's always best practice to just enable all of these like this, even if you don't have to, just because you don't have to come back later and re-enable it. And now what we want to do is filter based on that status, that checkbox that we have. So we're going to include that in the filtering field. And what we want is value checked. And what that means, if that checkbox is checked, it's going to filter it and it's going to show you those jobs that are checked. If you leave it like this, it's only going to show you jobs that are not checked or unpublished. Okay, so make sure that's checked. And then on the results page, what would you like to display? Well, let's see, I have job title and job location. So we'll have job title and job location. I am not going to make any changes here. Let's click next. Let's show 25 jobs. You're not going to enable this because you don't want users to be able to delete jobs publicly. We're going to enable a details page. But you can see I made my job title become a details link. See how it's clickable? Well, what we can do here is we can specify a specific field from the table, and I'm going to select job title. Okay, so now this field is going to become a details link. And in my details page, I'd like to show the job title, location, salary, and not the publish checkbox, because public users don't need to be able to see this. And of course, you're going to leave everything display only or read only because you don't want them to be able to edit. Click finish. Okay, so now there's our first public-facing data page. I'm going to go ahead and deploy this now. And we're going to go ahead and paste that onto the careers.html page. I just need to find my placeholder. There it is. Paste my Caspio code, and then let's test this out to make sure that it works. So refresh, go to the careers page, to refresh this page too, and there's that one job. if you look at the internal UI, you'll see that one job is unpublished and one is published. So if I go to details now, and I make this one available as well, now that filtering checkbox is filtering that check, and when you refresh, you're going to be able to see two jobs that are available on our corporate website. Okay, so we're not finished yet. Now when I go into the details view of this specific job, you'll see that we have some basic information here. But now we need to pass a parameter to our jobs form where we're going to save all the candidate information. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to create that hyperlink to pass the parameter. So let's go to the data pages. Let's go ahead and edit our report. And let's go directly to our details page. Okay, right over here. So the details view, which is this view right over here, okay, on our public facing data page. What I'm going to do is just really quickly insert an HTML block. Okay, and you can see that we have this picker available because you enable those two checkboxes in the beginning. Let me just go back just so you make sure you understand what I'm talking about. See how many times I have to click back? But if you enable this in the beginning right away, every time, you wouldn't have to backtrack. So let's go back to our details view. And what we need to do here is pass a parameter to our submission form. Okay, that way we can relate which candidate has applied for what job. Okay, so what we need to do is write a basic hyperlink. And what we're going to say is, let's call the link apply. And I have my page set up where I'm going to deploy my submission form. I called it, let's just take a look, I called it apply, I believe. Yeah, I called it apply.html. So let's go apply.html. And then to pass the parameter, you're going to use a question mark, as always. And then we're going to say job ID, or JID. I always like to abbreviate. Equals. And then you're going to pass that job ID as a string. Like this. Okay. So you're basically creating a hyperlink, and with that link, through the URL, you're going to pass this ID to this page, apply.html. Now, if this is new to you and you're not sure what this means, please do attend our Monday to Thursday sessions so you can learn. I do go in more depth on those sessions on what we're actually trying to accomplish by passing parameters. I also want to pass one more parameter, so I'm going to add an ampersand here. And I want to pass job title, or I'm going to call it JT, equals job title, like this. And the reason why I'm passing job title as well, if you look at our live example, and once I click on apply, look in the bottom left hand corner of my screen when I'm passing parameters. When I roll over apply, you're going to be able to see JID1 and job title marketing manager. So I want to pass this to the submission form. That way the user knows when I click on apply, the user is able to see applying for marketing manager. And I'm receiving this title here in the submission form. And you'll see when I build a form how we can receive that parameter inside the form as well. And then you can go ahead and click on submit and submit your application. Okay, so let me go ahead and click on finish here now. And just so you can see what I'm talking about here, let's go to our live example that we are creating. Okay, you see that apply link is now available because I created a hyperlink. Once I roll over, you're going to be able to see in the bottom left hand corner of my screen JID1 and job title support engineer. So I'm basically passing these two values to my new page that I called apply.html. Okay, now we haven't set this up yet. Now I have to build a form and deploy the form to our apply.html page. Now before I can build that form, I have to build a candidates table because that form is submitting data to our applicant table. So that's the last table that I need to build. So let's build that now, new table. And what you're going to need is job ID, and you're going to receive that job ID inside this table here. Okay, because you're passing that parameter using the URL, you're receiving it now in this table, and you want to stamp it so you can later on relate the jobs and candidates. So job ID, you also want, let me see what fields I have in the live example. So I have name, email, phone number, resume. Okay. So name, email, resume. Resume needs to be a file field because they want to submit their resume. Cover letter is going to be text 64,000. Let's see if I have any other fields. Salary expectation and considering me for other position. Okay, so salary expectation and other positions. And I'm going to make this a checkbox. Yes and no. And okay, so again, why do we need this job ID in this table? Because I want to relate the applicant table to my jobs table. So recruiter later on is able to see who's applying for what job. Okay, so let's save this table now, and let's call it applicants. Okay, so there's my applicant table. And now let me show you how you connect that report to the submission form by passing parameters and receiving parameters. Okay. So again, just to make sure everybody understands, if I edit this report, you have to make sure you enable these two checkboxes, because now we're passing parameters using the hyperlink. And if I go to my details view, I created this HTML box, and inside it I wrote a hyperlink, and we are passing those two values using the hyperlink. So these are called parameters. We're passing them as parameters using the URL. Okay, so let's click finish now. And now let's build a form. So new data page. We need a submission form. And that needs to be based on the applicant table. New style. So let's call this new applicant form. You have to make sure you enable these two checkboxes, because now that you're passing parameters using that apply link, you're also receiving parameters, the job title and the job ID inside this form. You do not need to restrict access because it's public facing. And what you're going to need is you're going to need all of your fields inside the submission form. And how do we receive that job title? Well, all I'm going to do is insert a new HTML block, and all I'm going to say applying for. And to insert that parameter, notice that we're not able to insert job title because we don't have that available from that table. So all you need to do is just manually enter the parameter as, and we called it JT for job title. Okay, so whatever you named it in the results page, you're receiving it the same way here. Okay, so now it's going to display the job title on the submission form at the very top. For job ID, well, because we have this field available, in the Advanced tab, we're going to receive the parameter externally, and we called it JID for job ID. Okay, and then you have the rest of your fields, and for now, all I'm going to do is hide this field. Actually, let's leave it exposed so you can see how we can view those parameters in the submission form. Then we have the name. You can make that required if you want to. Then you have email, phone number, resume, cover letter, which is going to be a text area, salary expectations, and checkbox. And let's just say, consider me for other positions. When you're done, go ahead and click on Finish now. And now let's make sure that everything works correctly the way it's supposed to. We're going to go ahead and deploy this now. We're going to copy the code. And we're going to paste that code into our apply. Let me just find my placeholder. There it is. Save it. Alright, let's test it out. So we go to Careers, Support Engineer. And now when I click on this, you can see that I'm passing the values from the Details view in our report, JID1 and Support Engineer. When I click on Apply, now you're able to see that that parameter was successfully passed using the URL. So you can see job ID 1 and job title, and I'm receiving the support engineer parameter here at the top of my form, and I'm also receiving the job ID number 1 inside this field. So through the data page wizard, you are able to receive and pass parameters using the URL. It's very helpful if you're building sophisticated applications, and it's actually very easy to do. You just have to understand the concept of of pitcher and catcher. So somebody's throwing you something and you're receiving it. And the way we're doing it, this is a common industry standard when building web applications. So this is not a Caspio thing. So you can see how we're passing that parameter using the URL. There's that job ID that we're receiving. And now you can just go ahead and click on, or basically fill out the form. You can say Ash Jordan, phone number. You can submit your resume. Just want to complete this form so you can see what we're doing here. Let's use this notepad. Cover letter and salary expectations. Submit. Okay, so your submission was successful. Obviously, I wouldn't expose that field for the ID. You notice how that ID number 1 was exposed. So let me go to careers again. Let me click on the marketing, which you'll see number 2 now. When I click on apply, there's number 2, because this job ID is number 2, and I passed it using the URL. So normally you would hide this field, but I left it exposed so you can see, and when you're testing, to make sure that you're successfully passing and receiving parameters. In the data page wizard on the submission form, all you would have to do is for job ID, instead of a text field, is just make it hidden like that. And then when you refresh, you'll see that it's hidden. It's still being passed, but obviously for public-facing users, they don't need to see that, okay? Or nor be able to edit, because that's going to create a lot of problems. And then once you make that submission, when you go to your tables now in your database for applicants, you're going to be able to see job ID 1. So we're going to know later on that Ashley applied for that job ID number 1. But even right now, we don't know what is job ID number 1. I don't know what that is. So what I have to do is I have to combine my 2 tables together. So I will combine the applicants table and the jobs table into a view to be able to display, because now we have a linking field, which is that job ID between these 2 tables. So one more time, so click on open, you'll see job ID number 1, and we have all the information for this job. If I go to the applicants table, because we passed that parameter, you can see job ID number 1, and we can see all the applicant information. So now we can build a view to combine those 2 tables together using the job ID field. So let's go to views, click on new, and we're going to say combine applicants and jobs. And the 2 tables that I'll need is the applicant table and the jobs table, because both of these 2 tables have that unique ID that's going to link them together, and it's the job ID. So we click next, and we're going to link them using the job ID from the applicant table and the job ID from the jobs table. You click on this plus icon, and now you're combining them. You're creating a joined view. So you're going to be able to see all the data from both of those tables inside one view. And what I want to be able to do, if you look at the live example for managed candidates, if we go to details, notice that we have the ability to edit some information here, which is the job applicant information, the name. And I forgot to add these fields to my table. I'll go back and add these fields so you can see where these fields are coming from. But what I want to be able to do is edit my, this is going to be my jobs table, no, my applicant table. Okay, so let's go back to my view. And I'd like to be able to edit my applicant table inside the view. Okay, so you can only edit one table. Let's click next. And now you're going to see all the fields that are available from both of those tables. So the applicants fields and the jobs fields. Click finish. Okay, so there's our view. If I click on open, you're going to be able to see just one record. Okay, which is a link between that job ID 1. There's job ID number 1. And the reason why we're only able to see one record, because if we look at the jobs table here, there's the job ID 1, there's job ID 2, and if you look at the other table for applicants, there's only job ID 1. And we don't have a 2. If we had a 2, then we will be able to see 2 records in the view. Hey, hopefully that makes sense. I know it could be a little bit of a daunting task or to think about it conceptually, but this is probably the best way of explaining it. I'm trying to be as thorough as I can. That way you guys understand what we're doing here. But if you do attend our Monday to Thursday session, this will make a lot more sense. So the next step is, now that we have that view built, as a recruiter or a user, I'd like to be able to see who's applying for what job. So we're going to build a data page, a report, tabular format, and now you're going to create this based on that view that we built. Okay, so not a table, but an actual view. Now, views allow you to combine multiple tables together. So with that, you can build one-to-many relationships, you can do many-to-many. So it's a great way to combine tables together. So let's use that view, enable these two, and make sure you restrict access based on the recruiter. So sure, let's have a search form. And let's search just based on some basic information here for now, just to save time. Of course, you can include any one of the fields from both of your tables if you'd like. But what I'm going to do is just have maybe a search based on applicant name, and maybe where's my... Oh, I didn't include my status field in my applicant table. I forgot to add that field. Okay, so I would have to go back. Remember, we created that lookup table for status, but I didn't add it to my applicant table, so I don't have the status field. Otherwise, I would have it in here available as well. So for now, let's just have maybe search based on applicant name and maybe email, and click next. You can see my live example here that when I manage candidates, I have that status field available, and I can search based on status if I want to, but I forgot to add it to my table, so we're going to exclude it in today's session. Okay, so we have our two search fields. Applicant name, I'm just going to rename that as name for my label. I'm going to have contains criteria, and then email, we're going to use contains criteria again. And on the results page, so on the results page, I'd like to be able to see who's applying for what position. So the first thing I'm going to add is a job title, and then I'm going to have the applicant name underneath, email, phone number, resume, and that's all I want for the results page. I do have to rename my labels because it carries it over from the view. So that really quickly here. And then the resume field, that's going to be a file type so we can download the resume. And then on the details page, we're going to include job title, just a few more fields here, applicant name, cover letter, and those are all the fields I like to have regarding my applicants. And then of course you can change the labels again just like I did in the results page, just because the view, when you make a view, it combines two tables together, so it makes our label longer than what it should be. You just have to make a few edits there. And this is going to be a file type for resume, cover letter, almost done here, salary expectation, and consider me for other positions. And when you're done, click on finish. And of course you can make these fields editable if you'd like, because in the view, if you remember, we're only able to edit one table at a time when you build a view, so you can make each one of these fields editable if you'd like. Click finish, and let's go ahead and deploy our last data page. So you can see this application has 5 data pages all in all, and what I'm going to do is deploy this last one. And let's go ahead and embed that into our Manage Candidates webpage. And now we have a fully working application. So let's go here and click on Manage Candidates, refresh, and let's log in. There's Mike at test.com. Test. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I was already logged in. I thought that was the login screen. Sorry about that. It looked like the login screen, but it's actually the search form. Because I already logged in once in the beginning, so the system keeps you logged in. Add new job, manage jobs, and it's a search form. For some reason, I thought that was the login screen. I haven't had my morning coffee yet, so I apologize. So let's go ahead and click on search here. You'll see that we have support engineer, and we have the name for Ash, who's applied for that support engineer position. Now, of course, it will make more sense if I enable grouping here. So let's go back to data pages real quick. Click on Edit. And let's go to the results page and enable our grouping based on job title. Refresh. And there it is, support engineer. So if anybody else applies for support engineer, so let's go back to careers and we do support engineer. Click on apply. And we'll say Terry Owens, Terry@test.com, and we'll make just a basic submission here, and submit. Alright, and then the recruiter is going to be able to see that when they refresh. Now we can see that 2 people applied for that position here. We can go to the details page, and had I made those fields editable, I will be able to edit those fields as well. Okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and conclude today's session on that. I always like to leave some time for questions at the end. And that's really it for as far as this application. You have the public-facing page where we can apply for jobs on the career page. You can limit to what jobs are available based on that filtering checkbox. And then you can apply by passing the parameter through this apply link, receiving those parameters, and when you click on submit, the recruiter can be notified via email right away. Of course, you can add new jobs, you can manage jobs, and then you can manage your candidates, whoever is applying for each specific position, and you can leave internal notes. Yeah, one thing that I didn't cover that I really should is the internal notes. So if I click search, and if I go to details, you're going to be able to see that, sure, I have all the information, but then how do I set a follow-up date or some kind of comments for myself or even a status? So that will be done basically on the applicant table. So managing applicants in design mode. Here I would list follow-up date. And that will be a date and time field. You can also have, instead of follow-up date, you can have status, which we have that drop-down lookup. And then we had notes, which will typically be a text 64,000 field. And then you click on save. Okay. And now that those fields are available in our table, I have to make sure they're available in our view as well. So I have to edit the view, because those are newly added fields. You will now see that I have to actually include those in the view as well. So I have to include all of the fields into the view. Those 3 fields that I just added to my applicant table. Click finish. And now on the data page setup, in the users table or users view for managing applicants and jobs, you will now see that those 3 fields are available for us as well inside the applicant table and through the view. And in the results page, I'm going to include those fields, follow-up date, status, and notes. And in the details view, I'm also going to include those 3 fields. And I'm just going to make them editable. So follow-up date is going to be a text field. Status is going to be a drop-down. And we have a lookup table to look up all the statuses. And then the notes can be a text 64,000. And click finish. So just a quick setup here for the recruiter to be able to add some notes on the account as well for this specific applicant. So I can say follow-up date is going to be Monday. Applicant status is new, and notes can be call to schedule an interview. Click update, and now you'll be able to see those notes in the results page as well for this specific applicant. Alright, so we have, let's see, we have about 10 minutes, which is good timing. Usually 10 minutes for questions at the end, so I'm going to unmute the line now. You can also submit your question using the chat window, or if you'd like, you can send me an email offline. Let me know if you have a specific request, something you're thinking about building. If we have the time next Friday or the following Friday, within an hour, I'm going to be able to show you that, how it's built, because I do take requests. And if I don't get any requests, I will just come up with an application myself and show it on a Friday session. One more time, just so everyone knows, these sessions are recorded and this will be available on our knowledge base under the full implementation demos. So towards the end of the day, you'll be able to see this video here added to the list of all the other videos that we have. These are our pre-recorded Monday to Thursday sessions, so feel free to watch those at your own time as well. This is the basic Monday, so this covers the basics. Tuesday is more intermediate session. Wednesday is the advanced session, and then Thursday we cover styles and and localization to change the aesthetics or the appearance of your apps. Okay, so I'm going to stay online here to see if anybody has any questions. If you decide to leave, I do appreciate you taking the time to join in today, and I hope to see you again in the future. And again, I am available offline if you have any questions for me. Feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll get back to you with my feedback and my thoughts if you have a specific request. Thank you, everyone.